Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine holding a simple brown coin in your hand, a small round piece of copper that once jingled unnoticed in countless pockets across America. It's the 1981 cent coin, a Lincoln penny, the kind of coin most people would overlook, toss into a drawer, or use to make exact change. But what if I told you that one of these humble coins, struck over 4 decades ago, has been valued by collectors at an unbelievable $54 million? Sounds unreal, right? A coin worth less than a gumball suddenly becoming worth more than a luxury jet or an entire mansion. But hidden within the ordinary are sometimes the rarest treasures, and the 1981 cent coin has a story that will make you look at every penny differently for the rest of your life. Let's take a journey back to the dawn of the 1980s, a time when America was in transition. Gasoline prices were rising, the Cold War was tense, and technology was creeping into everyday life. Amidst the hustle and chaos of this new decade, the U.S. Mint continued its silent, consistent duty, producing billions of coins for daily commerce. The 1980 penny was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, bearing the image of President Abraham Lincoln, a design that had already been in use since 1909. For most people, it was just another coin, indistinguishable from the others that had passed through their hands for decades. But as with many things in numismatics, the story doesn't lie in what's common, but in what went wrong, or rather, what went perfectly right in a way nobody expected. The 1980 Lincoln cent was part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial Reverse Design series. On its obverse, the noble profile of Abraham Lincoln faces right, a portrait sculpted by Victor David Brenner. You can see the fine details of Lincoln's face, the deep, reflective eyes, the lines of his cheek, and the hair texture carved in copper. Above his head, in bold letters, stands, "In God We Trust," and to his left, the simple word, "Liberty." The date, 1980, rests just beneath his chin, a year that would later become one of fascination for collectors around the world. On the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, we see the Grand Lincoln Memorial, an architectural tribute that had stood proudly in Washington, D.C. since 1922. The coin's back is a miniature monument, framed by the words, "United States of America," at the top and the denomination, 1 cent, at the bottom. And right above the memorial, the national motto, "E pluribus unum," out of many one. What most people never realized is that within the pillars of the memorial, if you look closely, you can actually see a tiny figure of Lincoln seated inside, just like in the Rio monument. It's an astonishing detail, almost invisible to the naked eye, but a reminder of how much craftsmanship goes into every small cent. Now, the 1980 penny may not look special on the surface. After all, over 7.4 billion of them were minted across the country. Most were made of copper-plated zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams, measuring 19 millimeters in diameter, and with a smooth edge. The metal composition was roughly 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the same as it had been for decades. But among those billions, there were a few that came out differently. A few that contained errors, striking flaws, or mint anomalies that transformed them from pocket change into priceless artifacts. Collectors have always been fascinated by what the human eye often overlooks. Tiny differences, a doubled die, a misplaced mint mark, or an unintentional striking flaw, can turn a 1 cent coin into something of extraordinary value. And in 1980, something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint. For the first time in years, the Mint didn't place a mint mark on its coins. That means the coins struck there were left without the little P, which wouldn't begin appearing until 2017. But what some collectors later discovered was that among those plain 1980 cents were examples with extraordinary striking detail, remarkable luster, and die variations that made them stand out. One of these coins, a pristine specimen believed to have been struck on a high-quality copper planchet, was later sold privately to a collector for a rumored $54 million. The transaction remains shrouded in mystery, no official auction record, no public documentation, just whispers among numismatic circles. But the legend has grown. Many believe it was an ultra-rare mint error, possibly a transitional piece struck with an experimental alloy or an off-metal composition. Some theories suggest it may have been struck using a prototype die intended for a later design, while others believe it was an error caused by a misplaced planchet from another denomination. Whatever the truth, the coin's perfection and mystery made it priceless in the eyes of those who live and breathe rare coins. To understand why a coin like that could command such an astronomical value, you need to understand the passion of collectors. Coin collecting, or numismatics, isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession rooted in history, art, and discovery. Every coin carries a story of its time, its design a reflection of national identity, and its metal composition a mirror of the economy. When a collector finds something truly unique, something that defies the billions of identical coins that surround it, its value transcends metal and enters the realm of art. And that's what the 1981-cent coin became, a work of accidental art. Picture this, a coin so flawless that even under magnification, every ridge, letter, and feature of Lincoln's portrait gleams with perfection. Its color is a rich, deep copper tone that hasn't dulled over time. The edges are sharp, the strike is full, and the surfaces are mirror-like, qualities that make it a proof-like specimen, even though it was never meant to be. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial in a way that almost glows, with every pillar perfectly formed, every line crisp. It's like the mint itself produced this one coin as a masterpiece, a single moment of absolute precision that would never happen again. Most people don't realize how much effort goes into the minting of coins. Before a penny even reaches your pocket, it goes through a complex process: design approval, die engraving, planchet preparation, striking, inspection, and distribution. Each step is a dance of technology and artistry. In 1980, the minting technology was still largely mechanical, relying on human oversight and craftsmanship. Errors could happen at any stage: a double strike, off-center die alignment, or even planchet contamination. But sometimes, those errors create something unexpectedly beautiful. And it's those beautiful mistakes that make collectors lose their minds and open their wallets. But even among the billions of 1980 pennies, the odds of finding one of these rare variants are astronomical. Experts estimate that less than a handful of flawless, high-grade, mint-state 1980 cents still exist today. Many have been lost to circulation, damaged, or melted down over time. After 1982, the U.S. Mint changed the penny's composition from copper to copper-plated zinc, reducing the weight to 2.5 grams. That makes pre-1982 pennies like the 1980 cent not just nostalgic, but materially valuable as well. With copper prices rising, even the metal content of a single penny has surpassed its face value. But that's nothing compared to the mythic worth of the $54 million coin. Imagine someone finding one of these coins by accident, maybe in an old jar, or tucked away in a forgotten wallet, or mixed among dusty change in a drawer. That's how these legends often begin. Ordinary people stumble upon extraordinary treasures without even realizing it. A single cent that has been overlooked for decades suddenly becomes the key to unimaginable wealth. It's a kind of modern-day alchemy, turning copper into gold, not by magic, but by rarity and demand. The story of the 1980 penny is more than just about money, it's about history captured in metal. Every scratch, every shine, every imperfection tells a story of where that coin has been. Maybe it was used to buy a morning newspaper in 1981, dropped on a school floor in 1985, or saved by a collector who somehow sensed its potential. Time passes, decades change, but the coin remains, silent, enduring, and full of stories it can never tell. The mystery behind that one extraordinary 1980 penny goes far deeper than anyone first imagined. You see, every coin tells a hidden story written not only in design, but in metal. To uncover what makes that penny so exceptional, we need to journey inside the U.S. Mint itself, to the roaring heart of coin production, where heat, pressure, and precision combine to give birth to every cent that has ever passed through American hands. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at near-record capacity. Massive presses thundered day and night, churning out billions of Lincoln cents to feed the hungry economy. Each press delivered up to 120 coins per minute, every strike hitting with over 60 tons of force. Molten copper was rolled into gleaming sheets, punched into tiny discs called planchets, and sent speeding toward the dies that carried the image of Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial. It was an industrial ballet, mechanical, repetitive, but also incredibly delicate. A fraction of a second too long, a microgram of weight off balance, and a unique variation could emerge. And that's exactly what fascinates collectors, those unintentional deviations that slip past quality control and become numismatic miracles. Among the billions of ordinary strikes, there might be one coin that is struck on a planchet from another denomination, perhaps a cent created on a dime blank, thinner and lighter, showing faint traces of both designs. Or a coin where the die slightly shifts between strikes, doubling the letters in Liberty, or the numbers of the date. These are the rare fingerprints of imperfection that collectors chase like archaeologists hunting for lost artifacts. The 1980 cent became the focus of such obsession because whispers of a mysterious alloy test started circulating in numismatic circles. Some claimed that a handful of 1980 pennies weren't made entirely of the regular 95% copper mix. Instead, they were said to contain traces of experimental metals, perhaps nickel, perhaps manganese, used briefly to test new compositions before the zinc transition of 1982. If true, that would mean those few pieces are chemically unique, true transitional errors, created in secrecy and somehow released into public circulation. A laboratory analysis later performed on one particularly bright 1980 cent showed unusual spectral readings, microscopic variations in composition that didn't match standard records. That single discovery lit a wildfire of speculation. To understand how this could happen, think of the mint as a factory the size of a city. Mistakes, especially in test runs, were inevitable. Prototype alloys were sometimes pressed into planchets for internal trials, and a few could have slipped into the normal production line. Those experimental coins would look identical to the naked eye, yet carry within their atomic structure a signature no one could see. It's this invisible difference, this secret hidden in plain sight, that might explain the astronomical $54 million value attached to the fabled specimen. Collectors describe that coin as almost supernatural in appearance. A hue unlike ordinary copper, a metallic warmth that reflects light with a reddish gold sheen. When held under magnification, the fields, the flat background surfaces, appear mirror-like, while Lincoln's portrait rises in frosted relief, almost as if sculpted from living metal. Every letter stands crisp, the edges razor-sharp, the rims smooth and perfect. Such perfection can only occur when every factor, die pressure, alignment, temperature, planchet purity, aligns in absolute harmony. It's like striking lightning in a bottle, once in a billion. But what about its journey? How does a coin born in an industrial press end up as a multi-million-dollar legend? The trail is as mysterious as the coin itself. Some stories say it was discovered by a mint employee who realized its perfection and quietly kept it as a curiosity. Others claim it appeared decades later in an estate sale, mixed among ordinary cents. A private buyer purchased the entire lot for a modest sum, only to discover the gem after years of neglect. However it surfaced, the moment it reached professional graders, its fate was sealed. Experts examined it under electron microscopes, and the results shocked them. No blemishes, no wear, no marks of circulation, not even microscopic polish lines. It was the kind of coin that looks freshly minted even after 40 years. Numismatists have a term for such coins, time capsules. They represent not just monetary value, but an unbroken connection to the day they were made. When collectors hold one, they're holding the craftsmanship, technology, and history of that exact moment. And the 1980 penny captures that moment perfectly. It is a window into an America at the cusp of change, when analog was turning digital, when pennies still carried the weight of real copper, and when the image of Lincoln had become a symbol of endurance. Interestingly, the Lincoln cent has always carried emotional power far beyond its monetary worth. When it first appeared in 1909, crowds lined up outside banks to get one. Newspapers wrote about the new Lincoln coin as if it were a national event. It wasn't just another cent, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. Brenner's design gave the American penny a face, a personality, a soul. And over 70 years later, the 1980 version carried that same face into a new era. To many Americans, Lincoln's calm, thoughtful expression represented honesty, struggle, and perseverance, values that never went out of style. That emotional weight, combined with rarity, is what fuels the staggering prices we hear about. In the world of collectibles, value isn't just measured by metal or condition, it's measured by meaning. A $54 million penny doesn't just sell for its copper, it sells for its story. Every collector wants to be part of that story. Owning it is like holding lightning, like touching a piece of history that almost shouldn't exist. Some analysts argue that the $54 million sale was less about intrinsic worth and more about symbolism, a statement purchased by a collector who wanted to own the impossible coin. In their eyes, it wasn't just a penny, it was a masterpiece of chance, a testament to human craftsmanship and imperfection combined. When you think about it, that makes sense. Art collectors spend hundreds of millions on a single painting not for its paint or canvas, but for what it represents. The 1980 penny is, in its own way, a work of accidental art. Now, consider the global context. By the 1980s, inflation was shaping economies worldwide. The value of metal fluctuated wildly, and the cost of producing coins was becoming a concern for governments everywhere. The U.S. Mint had to balance tradition with practicality. They wanted to preserve the image of Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial, but they also had to cut costs. Behind closed doors, metallurgists experimented with different alloys, weighing the pros and cons of each. This experimentation environment created the perfect conditions for anomalies to emerge. Among collectors today, there are constant whispers about ghost strikes, coins that appear to bear faint outlines of designs from other denominations, possibly due to leftover impressions on reused dies. Some 1980 pennies show faint doubling in the date, especially the zero, small quirks that send enthusiasts into frenzy. Online forums are filled with macro photographs, comparisons, and heated debates about which variant might be the next jackpot. And yet, for every legend, there are millions of ordinary coins. That's the paradox that makes coin collecting so addictive. 99.9% of coins will always remain worth face value, but that tiny fraction of 1%, that's where dreams live. Somewhere in a coffee can, a drawer, or a forgotten jar might sit another miracle of copper waiting to be rediscovered. The human connection to the penny is powerful because everyone has held one. It's democratic, universal, accessible. You don't need to be rich to participate in the hunt. All you need is curiosity and attention to detail. That's why stories like the 1980 cent resonate so deeply. They remind people that greatness can emerge from the smallest corners of everyday life. Even the very sound of a penny dropping has a nostalgic ring. That soft metallic clink echoes through childhood memories, store counters, parking meters, and candy machines. It's the soundtrack of everyday America. When collectors talk about the Lincoln cent, they're not just talking about currency. They're talking about a symbol woven into the nation's fabric. The 1980 penny, with its mythic value and mysterious origin, simply amplifies. The story of the 1981 cent coin isn't only about the gleam of copper or the chase for fortune, it's also about human fascination with the unseen. For centuries, coins have carried the symbols of nations, leaders, and beliefs. They move quietly through time, touched by millions, lost and found, spent and forgotten. Yet sometimes, one coin out of billions becomes the bridge between mystery and history. The 1980 penny has become that bridge, a coin that reminds us how thin the line can be between the ordinary and the extraordinary. When we think of wealth, we imagine gold bars, diamonds, or paintings hung in museums. But numismatists, the collectors of coins, see wealth in detail, in the tiny ridges of a coin's edge, in the spacing of letters, in the precise angle of a strike. The 1980 Lincoln cent may have started life as pocket change, but it has since transcended its humble purpose. Its journey from a factory in Philadelphia to whispered status as a $54 million artifact is not just a tale of luck, but of discovery, and the strange magnetism that pulls people toward perfection. To truly understand the allure, imagine the psychology of collecting itself. Every collector begins with curiosity, a child saving pennies in a jar, fascinated by dates and designs. Then comes the realization, some of these coins aren't just different, they're valuable. That spark grows into a lifelong pursuit. Collectors become detectives, historians, and dreamers all at once. They spend nights poring over magnified photos, studying mint reports, learning every detail about alloy changes, die rotations, and mintage figures. And through all that effort, they're driven by one unspoken hope: to find the impossible. The 1980 penny embodies that hope perfectly. You might wonder, why 1980? Why did this particular year become such a legend among all others? The answer lies in transition. The late 1970s had been turbulent: inflation, changing metals, economic shifts, and public debate over whether to even keep the penny in circulation. By 1980, the mint was already preparing for new materials and higher production volumes. That made it a year of experimentation behind the scenes. A time when different alloys were tested, dyes were being replaced more frequently, and minting technology was improving. Transitional years like this always produce the most intriguing anomalies. It's almost as if the machinery itself senses change and leaves behind traces of that transformation in metal. Some of the most expensive coins in U.S. history were born during such transitions, like the 1943 copper penny, accidentally struck on leftover copper blanks instead of wartime steel, now worth hundreds of thousands. Or the 1955 double die cent, with its famous doubled letters that look like they're echoing. These coins weren't meant to exist, yet they did, and they changed numismatic history. The 1980 penny follows the same path, a quiet year that gave rise to a monumental legend. In private laboratories and collectors' basements, magnifying lenses and digital microscopes hover over 1980 cents daily. Under high magnification, tiny variations tell immense stories. One coin might reveal a double date, another might show Liberty, slightly misaligned. Some even display faint ghost images on the reverse, believed to be the remnants of a previous strike. Each discovery fuels the myth further. The deeper people look, the more they find that no two pennies, even from the same year, are perfectly identical. It's a reflection of the universe itself, patterns within patterns, subtle imperfections that make perfection even more profound. But let's pause and imagine something almost poetic. Somewhere in 1980, a mint worker finishes his shift. His hands are streaked with the scent of metal and oil. He doesn't know that among the billions of coins that left the machines that week, one would become legendary. To him, it's just another batch of cents, same weight, same shine, same purpose. He never imagines that 40 years later, people would tell stories about one of those coins being worth $54 million. If only he could have seen the destiny of that one piece of copper. And perhaps that's what makes the legend so powerful: its humility. The coin itself was never made to be rare. It wasn't forged in gold or platinum. It didn't commemorate a special event or feature an experimental design. It was ordinary, mass-produced, everyday. And yet destiny chose it. Somewhere along the line, the right combination of elements, purity, perfection, timing, and preservation, created something no one expected. Numismatic experts have long debated what exact feature gives the 1980 penny its mythical status. Some say it's a flawless die alignment, others claim it's a rare off-metal strike. A few even whisper about microscopic minting codes hidden near the rim, visible only under extreme magnification, a supposed trace of an internal mint experiment. Whether any of that is true almost doesn't matter anymore, because the myth has taken on a life of its own. And it's not just the American public that's captivated. Around the world, collectors in Europe, Japan, and the Middle East have expressed fascination with the 1980 Lincoln cent. It represents something universal, the dream that greatness can hide in the smallest places. You don't need to be rich to own 1 cent, but you do need extraordinary luck to own the right one. That's why stories like this travel so far, because they awaken something timeless in everyone who hears them. Think about the copper itself. The 1980 penny was born from metal that was mined decades earlier, perhaps from deep within the earth in Arizona or Utah. Those raw copper veins, formed millions of years ago, were melted, refined, and rolled into sheets. The atoms within that sheet carry a cosmic fingerprint, elements that once drifted through ancient stars, now shaped into a symbol of human civilization. That's what makes coins so profound. They aren't just objects, they're the meeting point between the geological and the historical, between nature and culture. A 1980 penny is literally stardust turned into a story. Even its weight tells a tale. At 3.11 grams, the 1980 cent carries a tangible sense of density. Hold it, and it feels heavier than modern pennies, solid, old-fashioned, authentic. That small difference is enough for seasoned collectors to identify a pre-1982 penny by feel alone. In a world that's become increasingly digital and weightless, that heaviness feels grounding. It's a reminder of a time when even the smallest things had substance. Then there's the sound, that unique metallic click when two old copper cents collide. Modern zinc pennies make a lighter, duller sound, but copper rings with a soft, resonant note. That sound has echoed through generations, through pockets, counters, and childhood piggy banks. For some collectors, hearing that ring is enough to spark nostalgia strong enough to last a lifetime. But no matter how detailed we get, one mystery remains unsolved. Who exactly paid that unimaginable $54 million for a single 1980 penny? Some suspect it was an international billionaire collector, known for purchasing rare coins anonymously to preserve privacy. Others think it was a private museum acquisition, meant to hold the coin as a centerpiece of American numismatic history. There are even rumors, though unconfirmed, that it was part of a trade between wealthy investors, more symbolic than monetary. The lack of public record only fuels the fascination further. It's worth noting that in the world of ultra-rare collectibles, secrecy is common. Many of the most valuable coins in history, like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, passed through private hands quietly before reappearing at auctions decades later. The 1980 penny fits that same pattern, elusive, whispered about, but rarely seen. And perhaps that's how legends survive, by staying hidden just enough to keep imagination alive. There's also something poetic about its value being $54 million, 54, the number that perfectly balances between the centuries since Lincoln's time and the modern world. In some cultures, numbers carry meanings, and 54 is seen as a number of completion and balance. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe destiny left its mark even there. Beyond collectors and markets, though, this coin's legacy touches something philosophical. It asks us to reconsider the meaning of worth. How can a 1-cent coin, designed to be the lowest unit of money, become priceless? Perhaps because worth is never just about numbers. It's about rarity, beauty, story, and emotion, the same things that make art, music, and memory valuable. The 1980 penny is a perfect metaphor for life itself, overlooked, underestimated, but capable of unimaginable greatness under the right conditions. Imagine that small coin sitting silently under glass, untouched by time. The copper still glows with that reddish-brown warmth that only age and purity can create. Every curve of Lincoln's portrait seems alive, frozen in a moment of calm dignity. The longer you look, the more you realize that this isn't just metal, it's memory. It's a piece of America molded into form. And somewhere in its shine, there's a reflection of every hand that's ever held a penny, every dream that's ever been bought or lost with small change. But beneath that soft surface, there's science. Deep, intricate science. The metallurgy of the 1980 penny tells its own secret tale. Each cent was composed of roughly 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc, a composition that dates back to 1909, when the Lincoln design first appeared. At the time, copper prices were stable, and the U.S. Mint could afford to keep pennies solid and heavy. Yet by 1980, the global copper market had changed. The cost of copper was rising rapidly, threatening the economics of minting coins that were literally worth more in metal than in face value. Inside the mint's laboratories, chemists and metallurgists began testing new alloys, searching for cheaper alternatives. Some of these experimental blanks, it's believed, were accidentally fed into the coin presses that struck the 1980 cents. That's how myths begin, not with magic, but with human experimentation gone slightly off script. Now think of the sound of those presses. Inside the Philadelphia Mint, enormous hydraulic machines slam down with rhythmic precision, clang, hiss, release, repeat. Each impact imprints Lincoln's portrait on a blank planchet, striking it with thousands of pounds of pressure. The process is exact, relentless, mechanical, yet in that dance of metal and motion, tiny deviations occur. Maybe a die was slightly misaligned. Maybe the temperature of one batch of blanks was just a few degrees higher. Maybe one planchet, ever so subtly, carried a different density of copper. It's within those invisible margins that rarity is born. One anomaly out of billions, one flawless strike among endless repetition. That's what makes coin collecting so hypnotic. It's the idea that perfection can emerge from imperfection. The 1980 pennies mystery has captivated generations because it forces us to believe that even machines, in their quest for uniformity, sometimes create miracles by mistake. Collectors who have examined top-grade 1980 cents describe them in reverent tones. They talk about the mirror-like surfaces, the deep red luster that gleams even under low light, and the razor-sharp details around Lincoln's beard and coat. Some of these specimens are so pristine that they look as if they were minted yesterday. A few are graded MS-70 by professional services, the highest possible grade, meaning no visible flaw under magnification. Such coins are already valuable. But the one rumored to be worth $54 million surpasses even that perfection. It's said to have characteristics unseen on any other example: an almost glass-smooth field, a faint reflective doubling in the date, and a reverse so sharply struck that even the steps of the Lincoln Memorial appear sculptural. To hold it, collectors say, is to hold something otherworldly, yet beyond its physical perfection, there's the emotional weight it carries. The Lincoln cent has always been a symbol of endurance, of faith, unity, and modesty. Since 1909, it's been the face of everyday America, the coin of the people. It has survived wars, recessions, cultural revolutions, and economic reforms. Through all that, it remained the same, simple, familiar, and constant. That constancy gives the 1980 penny's legend an almost spiritual layer, as if fate chose the humblest of symbols to remind humanity of value hidden in plain sight. When numismatists discuss the $54 million valuation, they often compare it to other famous coins. The 1933 Double Eagle sold for over $18 million in 2021. The 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar reached more than $10 million. So how could a penny surpass them all? The answer lies not in material but in meaning. Those other coins are famous because of rarity and age. The 1980 penny, on the other hand, is famous because of mystery and story. Its value has become partly mythological, built by whispers, speculation, and the psychology of obsession. In a world where collectors spend fortunes chasing the unattainable, the allure of the impossible penny is irresistible. Now let's travel back again, to a time before the legend was born. It's the spring of 1980, and coins are rolling off the presses at breakneck speed. The mint is producing more than 7 billion pennies to meet public demand. Employees load heavy bags of fresh cents onto pallets, tagging them with lot numbers, mint locations, and shipment routes. Some go to banks, others to federal storage. But one small batch, perhaps a handful of bags, may have contained a few coins that didn't quite match the rest. Maybe they had that unique alloy. Maybe they were struck with a special dye. Maybe they simply had that inexplicable shimmer that would one day capture a collector's imagination. Somewhere, a bank teller breaks a roll of those coins. Somewhere else, a kid receives one in change and tosses it into a jar. Time moves on, and the coin vanishes into the endless ocean of circulation. Decades later, when coin enthusiasts start combing through their old jars, a few 1980 pennies begin to stand out. Some display unusual toning, rainbow hues across the copper surface, formed by chemical reactions over the years. Others show deep strike details or sharp edges that seem too perfect for mass production. And then there's the coin that defies logic. Perfect in weight, flawless in texture, magnetic in beauty. When experts examine it under magnification, they can't fully explain what they see. The surface doesn't behave like normal copper. It reflects light in patterns that suggest a microlayering effect, possibly from a unique cooling process. There are faint traces of something different, maybe nickel, maybe bronze, maybe something the mint never disclosed. For collectors, that single anomaly transforms everything. Suddenly, the 1980 penny isn't just another vintage cent, it becomes a symbol of hidden possibility. The idea that one could find a fortune in pocket change starts to feel real again. The story spreads, through collector forums, through numismatic newsletters, through late-night documentaries. People begin checking their jars, their drawers, their basements. Pawn shops see waves of hopeful faces asking, "Can you check this one?" The legend feeds itself, growing larger with every retelling. But the fascination isn't only about money. It's about the thrill of the hunt. Humans are wired to search, to seek meaning in randomness, to find patterns in chaos. That's what keeps collectors awake at night, flipping coins under light, chasing that glimmer of the extraordinary. The 1980 penny has become their holy grail, the tangible embodiment of that eternal search. In one sense, this story mirrors America itself, the land of chance, of dreams, of hard work meeting destiny. The penny is the perfect metaphor, small, simple, often ignored, yet holding within it the potential for greatness. The 1980 cent reminds people that you don't have to be born special to become priceless. Sometimes, being in the right place, at the right moment, under the right pressure, is enough, and perhaps that's why the legend refuses to fade. Even skeptics who doubt the existence of a $54 million sale can't deny the coin's symbolic power. It represents hope, the idea that the extraordinary can hide within the ordinary, that value is a matter of perspective, that beauty can emerge from everyday things. Today, when someone picks up an old penny and looks closely at the date 1980, they're not just seeing a number, they're seeing a story. They're peering into a mystery that blurs the line between history and myth. They're touching something that connects generations of dreamers and believers, and that, more than anything, is what gives this coin its true worth. Somewhere, in a private vault deep beneath layers of security and silence, the legendary 1981 cent coin rests. It's stored not in a simple plastic holder, but inside a temperature-controlled case, where humidity, air, and even light exposure are monitored with scientific precision. Only a few people have ever seen it. For them, that moment is unforgettable, standing face to face with what might be the most valuable coin on the planet, a 1-cent piece whose value transcends logic. They say that when you first lay eyes on it, it doesn't even look real. It almost glows, as if the copper has absorbed decades of history and condensed it into a single, soft radiance. You can feel its presence, not because of its weight, but because of its story, and what a story it is. The tale of the 1980 penny is as much about mystery as it is about money. To understand how such a coin could rise to mythical value, you have to step into the intricate world of collectors, a world ruled by precision, patience, and passion. In this world, a fraction of a millimeter can mean millions of dollars. A single error can turn a coin into a national treasure. And once a legend begins, it ripples through time, gathering believers, skeptics, and dreamers alike. The experts who have examined high-grade 1980 cents describe something they call the copper mirage. Under certain angles of light, the color seems to shift, from deep mahogany to fiery red, from glowing bronze to soft rose. This effect, they say, comes from the purity of the metal, the way it oxidized evenly over 40 years without any discoloration or corrosion. It's a chemical perfection that shouldn't exist, but somehow does. In the rumored $54 million specimen, the color is so even, so warm, that numismatists have compared it to a sunset trapped inside a coin. But color is only part of its magic. The details of the design, every hair on Lincoln's head, every stroke of the engraving, appear deeper and sharper than on any other example. Some believe that the die used to strike it was brand new, used for only a few test strikes before being retired. Others think it might have been polished by hand, resulting in a strike so crisp that the coin looks sculpted rather than stamped. Either way, its creation wasn't accidental. It was fate, the perfect alignment of craftsmanship and chance. The Lincoln design itself carries weight. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was chosen for the penny because he represented integrity, unity, and resilience. When Victor David Brenner sculpted his portrait in 1909, He captured more than a face, he captured a legacy. That same legacy lived on in the 1980 coin, linking 2 centuries of American spirit. Every line on Lincoln's face tells a story of struggle, of leadership, of humanity. It's fitting, then, that the most valuable penny in history bears his image. A symbol of freedom turned into a symbol of fortune. Collectors often say that the 1980 penny's power lies in its symbolism. It came from a decade defined by change, when America was redefining its identity, when industries were shifting, when technology began to reshape the world. That coin, born in the midst of all that motion, now stands as a frozen moment of transition. It's as if the mint unknowingly captured the spirit of the 1980s, the ambition, the uncertainty, the optimism, in a piece of copper smaller than a bottle cap. Over the years, numismatic journals have published articles trying to trace the origins of the $1 million specimen. Some claim it was found in an old estate collection in Pennsylvania, tucked inside a set of coins saved by a retired mint employee. Others say it was discovered overseas, in a private collection sold through a European auction house with no digital record. The truth has never been confirmed, but that uncertainty only fuels the fascination. Because mystery, when paired with rarity, becomes irresistible. Imagine being the person who first realized what they had. Maybe they were going through old coins one evening, under the yellow glow of a lamp. Maybe they noticed how this one penny gleamed differently, how the edges felt smoother, heavier. They hold it between their fingers, turn it over, and for a moment, everything pauses. There's a heartbeat of disbelief, then curiosity, then awe. They take it to an expert. The expert looks through a magnifying glass and goes silent. The room fills with a heavy stillness, the kind of silence that comes only when someone realizes they're looking at something the world has never seen before. The process that follows such a discovery is meticulous. The coin would be weighed, measured, scanned under electron microscopes. Every groove and ridge compared to known specimens. The experts look for die markers, tiny, unique scratches or polished lines that identify which die was used. They check the composition using X-ray fluorescence to determine the exact ratio of metals. When results come back slightly outside the normal range, the excitement becomes electric. It confirms what everyone suspects: this is no ordinary penny. Some of the world's leading numismatic institutions reportedly competed to acquire it. Offers flowed quietly through private brokers, 10 million, 20 million, 30. Then came the rumor of the final sale, $54 million. No public announcement, no photographs, no confirmation from the mint. Just a single fact repeated like a whisper: the 1980 penny is now the world's most expensive 1-cent coin ever sold. Even if the number sounds unbelievable, the story persists because it speaks to a deep human desire, the wish to find treasure where no one else sees it. Every time someone hears about that coin, they start to wonder, could there be another? Could one of the pennies lying forgotten in a jar or hidden in an attic be just as rare? That possibility is what keeps the legend alive. Across America, thousands of people have begun rechecking their change. They take out magnifying glasses, small scales, and coin books. Some even start collecting rolls of 1980 pennies from banks, hoping to uncover a miracle. Social media buzzes with videos of people sharing what they've found: a shiny penny with an odd color, a slightly misaligned date, a missing detail in the memorial. Most of them are ordinary, but once in a while, one stands out just enough to spark debate. Could it be the one? The truth is, no one knows for sure. And that's the beauty of it. The 1980 penny is a story that lives between fact and fantasy, where reality ends and imagination begins. It doesn't matter whether the $54 million sale truly happened. What matters is that it could have. That small possibility turns the everyday act of looking at change into an adventure, a reminder that life itself is full of hidden wonders. When you think about it, every penny tells a story. Some traveled across cities through countless hands. Others sat in drawers for decades untouched. Each carries fingerprints, scratches, traces of the past. The 1980 penny, though, carries something more: the idea that history is alive, that luck exists, and that even the smallest objects can hold unimaginable power. Perhaps one day, that coin will reappear, at an auction, in a museum, or in a collector's estate. Maybe we'll finally see it in high definition, every microscopic feature revealed, every detail studied. Until then, it remains an enigma, a spark that ignites curiosity wherever the story is told. Because somewhere out there, in the vast sea of coins minted in 1980, the most valuable one still waits, silently shining beneath layers of time, reminding us that greatness often comes in the smallest forms. Time, as it always does, moves forward, but legends like this one never fade. The 1980 1-cent coin has become more than just a collector's fantasy. It's a reflection of how stories shape value, and how mystery gives meaning to the mundane. In a world obsessed with digital wealth and fleeting trends, a simple copper coin from decades ago still manages to command awe, reverence, and desire. It's as if the 1980 penny defies not only logic but time itself, a relic that refuses to be forgotten. Think for a moment about how many pennies have been produced since then. Billions upon billions of them, each carrying the same face, the same memorial, the same size and color. Yet among those billions, one stands apart, one that holds a price tag so surreal it eclipses reason. This is the paradox that captures the human heart, sameness surrounding singularity. Among oceans of ordinary, one becomes legendary. And that's why people can't let go of the 1980 penny story. It speaks to something deeply human, the belief that hidden within the common lies the potential for greatness. Every year, thousands of enthusiasts still gather at coin shows across America. The air is thick with quiet excitement, tables lined with silver dollars, buffalo nickels, and old Lincoln cents sealed in plastic holders. Under the harsh light of exhibition halls, magnifying lenses hang from necks, and whispers float through the crowd. 1980s in this batch, ungraded one here, full red luster. Somewhere among them, a collector brings out a small coin box, carefully opens it, and inside, resting on black velvet, lies a 1980 penny so pristine it looks freshly minted. The crowd leans closer, eyes widening. For a few heartbeats, time slows. Every detail gleams, the sharp curve of the date, the reflection dancing off the fields. People take turns holding their breath, daring to believe that they might be staring at the one dot, but the legend doesn't live only in the hands of collectors. It lives in the stories passed between them. Over the years, the 1980 penny has inspired articles, documentaries, podcasts, even whispered conversations in online forums dedicated to numismatics. It has become the modern-day equivalent of buried treasure, proof that adventure can still exist in a handful of change. Some experts try to ground the legend in science, analyzing data, mint records, and alloy tests. Others embrace the mythic side, suggesting that certain coins are chosen by fate, a cosmic alignment of metal and meaning. And maybe that's true. Because if you think about it, the life of a coin is like a journey of destiny. A penny begins as raw metal deep inside the earth, forged under immense pressure and heat. Then it's extracted, melted, shaped, and struck into form, its identity born through fire and force. After that, it travels through countless hands, witnessing moments both grand and trivial. Some end up lost, corroded, forgotten. Others are kept, cherished, remembered. A few become legendary. The 1980 penny fits that last category perfectly. It's a reminder that even the smallest things carry epic journeys within them. In the dim light of collectors' rooms, under the hum of lamps and magnifiers, the details of this coin are studied like sacred scripture. Every groove, every reflection, every faint scratch is a clue to its origin. On the obverse, Lincoln's gaze looks calm but resolute, a symbol of endurance. The letters around his head, "In God We Trust, Liberty, 1980, appears sharper than most. The edge, smooth yet flawless, reflects a care and striking that hints at precision unseen in mass production. Flip it over, and the Lincoln Memorial glows like a tiny temple. The pillars seem alive, casting invisible shadows, and if you stare long enough, you can almost imagine Lincoln sitting within, not as a statue, but as a guardian of secrets. There's an undeniable sense of reverence in holding a coin like that. It's not about greed or possession. It's about connection, touching a piece of history that transcends the ordinary. For the person lucky enough to hold that $54 million coin, the experience must feel surreal. How does one even measure that feeling? The coin's monetary value becomes secondary. What it represents, the rarity, the craftsmanship, the story, that's what truly makes it priceless. There's also the question of fate. Was it pure accident that created such a flawless piece, or was it guided by something unseen? Perhaps the die was replaced at the perfect moment, the metal cooled at the perfect temperature, the pressure set just right. Maybe it was meant to be different. Maybe, in a world governed by precision, this single penny was destined to break the pattern. Stories from retired mint employees occasionally surface, describing how strange batches sometimes appeared, coins struck with exceptional sharpness, or unusual hues of copper. Some were destroyed, others slipped through unnoticed. One rumor tells of a batch from the Philadelphia Mint that was recalled but never fully recovered. It's possible that one of those escaped pieces was the now mythical 1980 cent. Of course, no one can confirm it. But legends are born from uncertainty, not from proof. It's almost poetic how the smallest coin carries such an enormous mystery. The penny was designed to be the symbol of humility, the lowest denomination, something people often ignore or even discard. Yet here it is, commanding the highest value of all. It's like life turning itself inside out, revealing that worth isn't about size or status, but about uniqueness. 1 cent, worth $54 million, a contradiction that challenges everything we think we know about value. Even the number itself feels faded. 54 million. It's not random, it sounds intentional, balanced. The 5 and the 4, symbols of change and stability, mirror the story of this coin. Change, because it represents transformation from ordinary to extraordinary. Stability, because it anchors the legacy of Lincoln's enduring face. Every number, every date, every detail aligns with the poetry of its existence. Collectors often say that every coin has a soul. Some coins feel cold, lifeless, mass-produced with no story to tell. But others, like the 1980 cent, feel alive. You can almost sense a pulse in the metal, a warmth that comes not from heat but from history. When you hold it, you feel time folding, 1980 collapsing into now, past and present meeting in the glint of copper. You realize that you're not just holding a coin, you're holding an echo of everything that came before and everything that still might come. There's something mesmerizing about that idea, that a small, circular object can outlive empires, trends, and generations, yet remain perfectly recognizable. Pennies from the 1980s are still found in circulation today, mixed with newer ones, unnoticed by most. Somewhere out there, maybe in a coffee shop cash register or a forgotten drawer, another coin just like the legendary one might be waiting to be discovered. It could be dull, tarnished, covered in dust, but beneath that surface, history could be hiding. That's the beauty of numismatics. It turns ordinary observation into discovery. It teaches patience, attention, and respect for detail. The 1980 penny, whether worth 54 million or a single cent, teaches the same lesson, that everything has value if you look closely enough. Every coin, every scratch, every imperfection tells a story. And sometimes, the most beautiful stories are the ones that seem too impossible to be true. The 1980 penny stands as a reminder of how something so small can hold the weight of wonder. It's a time capsule, a mystery, and a mirror, reflecting not just the face of Lincoln, but the faces of everyone who's ever believed that miracles can happen in the most unexpected places. Maybe that's why, even decades later, collectors still chase it. They're not just hunting for copper, they're chasing a feeling, that spark of discovery, that heartbeat of wonder when possibility meets reality. Because deep down, everyone wants to believe that there's still magic in the world. And sometimes, that magic comes in the shape of a coin no bigger than your thumbnail. There's a quiet truth that lives inside every coin, and it whispers one message over and over: survival. The 1980 penny is a survivor. It has endured decades of circulation, whether and where, yet somehow, the finest examples remain untouched, sealed away, protected by those who saw their worth long before the world did. It's strange to think that a tiny disc of metal, smaller than a cookie, can outlive the hands that made it, the people who spent it, and even the generation that minted it. But that's what makes it powerful. It's not just copper, it's continuity. It's history that refuses to vanish. Imagine the life this coin could have had. Maybe it started in a mint bag, loaded into a bank vault. Maybe it passed through a grocery store register, then into a kid's piggy bank. Maybe it was lost, found, spent again, forgotten for years, and then rediscovered. Each movement adds a new layer to its story: fingerprints from strangers, pockets from travelers, counters from cashiers. Every moment it lived in the real world was another breath in its journey. Now, decades later, that same coin, or one exactly like it, could be sitting silently, unaware that it has become a legend whispered about across continents. When people hear that a 1980 penny could be worth $54 million, their first reaction is disbelief. How could something so ordinary be so valuable? But disbelief quickly turns to curiosity. They start reading, researching, learning. They discover that the value doesn't lie in gold or rarity alone, but in the story behind the object, the imperfections, the accidents, the coincidences that make one coin different from the next. And then something beautiful happens. They start looking closer. At their coins, at their possessions, even at their lives. They begin to see that worth isn't always obvious. Sometimes it hides in the details we overlook. That's the real legacy of the 1980 penny. It doesn't just inspire collectors, it awakens wonder in ordinary people. It turns curiosity into connection, transforming a simple piece of metal into a symbol of possibility. Across YouTube videos, documentaries, and numismatic discussions, this penny has become the ambassador of hope, proof that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value. Under a microscope, a 1980 penny reveals a universe of texture and precision. The rim rises slightly like the edge of a planet. The fields, the smooth, flat parts of the coin, reflect light like calm water. The letters, sharp and defined, stand tall like monuments. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse is so intricate that, with magnification, you can see the faint suggestion of steps leading to the statue. These details aren't just art, they're engineering. Every curve and contour represents hours of human design and craftsmanship. The coin isn't just struck, it's sculpted by pressure, molded by force, refined by repetition until perfection is achieved, and in that perfection lies paradox. For all its precision, the mint couldn't predict that one coin would rise above all others. It wasn't part of a special edition or commemorative set. It was meant to blend in, not stand out. Yet, somehow, it became the rarest of the rare. That unpredictability, that refusal to conform, is what draws collectors in. Because deep down, people love stories where the unexpected triumphs. The $54 million 1980 penny represents that triumph. It's a rebel among its kind, the coin that refused to be ordinary. It embodies the idea that even the smallest creation, given the right moment and conditions, can achieve immortality. That's why its legend feels almost spiritual. It's not just a story about wealth. It's a parable about destiny. Now imagine the collector who owns it. Somewhere, in an undisclosed location, perhaps inside a luxurious study or a high-security vault, that coin rests. The owner doesn't flaunt it. They don't post pictures or seek attention. They simply keep it safe, not as an investment, but as a promise. They know they're holding something beyond price. For them, it's not about money anymore, it's about stewardship. They're the guardian of a mystery, protecting it for the next generation. Maybe one day, it will re-emerge, its story retold to a new audience. Until then, it lives in silence, shining quietly in its secret resting place. But that silence speaks loudly. It tells us that sometimes, the most valuable treasures are the ones hidden from view. Their worth isn't measured by visibility but by meaning. And this coin's meaning runs deep. It symbolizes an era, a process, a philosophy of creation that valued detail, precision, and endurance. It captures a moment in 1980 when America stood at the crossroads of tradition and progress. The copper coin became a messenger of that time, and today, it carries those echoes forward. For collectors, the fascination never ends. Even if they never see the legendary piece, the chase continues. They search through rolls of pennies, hoping to find one with an unusual tone, a misplaced mint mark, or an unexpected shine. Each coin examined brings a small thrill, the possibility that lightning might strike again. That's what keeps the story alive. Every discovery, no matter how small, feeds the dream that the next coin could be the one. There's also a cultural magic to this story. The 1980 penny has become part of modern folklore, like the stories of lost treasures, sunken ships, and hidden gold mines. It's a myth that doesn't rely on fantasy but on fact wrapped in mystery. You don't need to believe in ghosts or miracles to believe in it. You just need to believe that accidents can create wonders. That somewhere in the everyday, magic hides quietly, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And maybe that's the greatest message this coin has to offer, that discovery doesn't always require travel or adventure. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries are waiting right in front of us, in the things we overlook every day. That penny sitting on your desk, that coin rolling across a counter, that bit of copper forgotten in your drawer, it might not be worth millions, but it carries the same spirit, the same history, the same story of creation, endurance, and value. Every time you pick up a penny and hold it to the light, you're holding the history of a nation, the art of design, the science of metallurgy, and the whisper of a mystery that might never fully be solved. You're holding a symbol of persistence, of something that refuses to fade. The 1980 penny story reminds us that time itself is a collector. It gathers moments, preserves them, polishes them, and passes them down to us. Some of those moments are hidden inside metal. Others live in memory. But both endure. That's why this small coin matters. It isn't just a relic of currency, it's a vessel of meaning, carrying the dreams, labor, and ingenuity of those who made it. The next time someone laughs at the idea of a penny being worth millions, let them laugh. Because behind every legend, there's truth, and behind every truth, there's wonder. The 1980 penny is proof that wonder still exists in this world. You just have to be willing to look close enough to see it. There's something almost poetic about how value hides in plain sight. The 1980 penny isn't made of gold or silver, yet it has surpassed both in legend. It's as if time itself decided to wrap a story around this coin, letting it slip quietly through the decades until it emerged as a symbol of what collectors call the miracle of minting. Every detail of its existence tells a story not just of currency, but of craft, the art of turning metal into meaning. When you hold a 1980 penny under bright light, you notice the soft reflection that dances on its copper surface. It's not a loud gleam like gold or silver, it's subtle, humble, almost shy. The surface carries the warmth of something human-made, something that once burned in a furnace, flowed as molten metal, and then was struck into life with immense pressure. At that instant, when the die met the blank planchet, a fraction of a second defined its destiny. Most coins were perfect enough to pass inspection, yet not unique enough to stand out. But a few, those rare few, bore something different, a tiny flaw, an invisible alignment, a stroke of fate that gave them personality. Those minute imperfections became the reason people now search through their change jars and coin rolls with magnifying glasses and flashlights, their hearts racing with each discovery. They're not just searching for a penny, they're searching for a piece of that miracle. Each time a collector turns a coin in their hand, they imagine the machinery, the heat, the clang of metal echoing through the mint. They imagine the workers who couldn't have known they were creating a future legend. That connection, between the ordinary worker of 1980 and the modern-day collector, is a bridge of fascination that transcends time, and the weight of that bridge is exactly 3.11 grams. That's what the 1980 penny weighs, just a bit more than a sheet of paper, yet heavier with meaning than most artifacts of the era. Its diameter is 19.05 millimeters, less than an inch, yet it contains the entire image of Lincoln, one of the most powerful figures in American history. Within that small space, artistry and symbolism collide. In God we trust, liberty. 1980, these words aren't just inscriptions, they're echoes of ideals. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, not as a mere structure, but as an emblem of perseverance. It's remarkable how much philosophy and pride can fit inside something so small. Numismatists often say that coins are miniature time machines. They carry us backward into the era that made them. The 1980 penny carries the rhythm of the Reagan years approaching, the hum of factory floors, the pulse of an economy trying to reinvent itself. When you stare at its surface long enough, it almost speaks, not with words, but with presence. You can feel the 1980s in it, the hope, the struggle, the transformation. Now, when it comes to that fabled $54 million specimen, every whisper surrounding it feels like a piece of a puzzle that may never be complete. Some believe the coin was struck on a rare transitional planchet, possibly an experimental alloy meant for testing a new composition. Others insist it was a one-of-a-kind mint strike intended as a quality control example that somehow slipped into circulation before being recovered. Whatever its origin, it's clear that this was no ordinary penny. The details were flawless: a mirror-like surface, no scratches, perfect strike pressure, and possibly even a hidden mint anomaly that no one could replicate. The story of its sale spread like wildfire. Private collectors, journalists, and enthusiasts debated it across forums and publications. Was it real? Was it myth? Did someone truly pay $54 million for a single cent? While no auction house confirmed the transaction, the story took on a life of its own. It became less about the transaction itself and more about the dream it ignited. The dream that something so small could hold such enormous value. That's what gives this coin its staying power. It blurs the line between reality and legend, between what's proven and what's possible. Even seasoned collectors, who've handled $1,000 specimens, can't resist the allure of that mystery. The very idea of it makes people dig deeper into their own collections, makes them re-examine their assumptions, makes them believe that maybe, just maybe, there's still magic in their hands. And that belief has a ripple effect. Since the story of the $54 million penny surfaced, the interest in 1980 pennies has skyrocketed. Coin roll hunters and casual collectors alike have begun combing through their old change, hoping to spot something extraordinary. Online listings have flooded the market, with sellers posting their 1980 coins, sometimes mistakenly calling them rare, but always with hope in their descriptions. The phenomenon has turned the 1980 penny into a cultural icon, not because everyone has a valuable one, but because everyone wants to believe they might. That belief, that spark of possibility, is worth more than the coin itself. It transforms a simple act, like checking your change, into an adventure. It turns curiosity into excitement, routine into discovery. And maybe that's why the story never dies. Because beyond the wealth, beyond the mystery, lies something every person understands: the joy of finding something extraordinary in the ordinary. The irony is, the people who mint coins never think of their creations as future treasures. To them, it's about precision, production, and consistency. But for collectors, every flaw is a fingerprint of fate, every misprint, every double die, every variation is a window into the unpredictable side of perfection. The 1980 penny exists at the crossroads of both worlds, a symbol of routine creation and miraculous exception. It embodies both the predictable and the impossible, and maybe that's why its legend keeps growing. Because it represents something bigger than currency. It represents the idea that destiny can hide in the mundane, that greatness can begin as something small, unnoticed, and overlooked. Every great discovery in history started that way, unassuming, accidental, and completely ordinary until someone looked closely enough to see its brilliance. The 1980 penny carries that exact same spirit. Somewhere out there, another one might exist, sitting in a forgotten jar, lying between couch cushions, or hidden in an old cash register. Maybe another flawless strike, another mysterious alloy blend, another undiscovered anomaly is waiting to surface. The idea of that possibility keeps the world looking, and in that endless search, the legend of the 1980 penny continues to grow, not as a relic of the past, but as a living mystery of the present. So, even if most 1980 pennies will never be worth more than their face value, they carry the same DNA as the one that reached $54 million. They're part of the same family, born from the same metal, shaped by the same hands, marked by the same designs. That makes every single one of them, in a way, a piece of the legend, because value isn't always about price. Sometimes it's about meaning. Sometimes it's about what something represents. The idea that life's greatest treasures don't need to shine like gold, They just need to tell a story that touches the imagination. And the 1980 penny has done exactly that, transforming from pocket change into poetry. Now pause for a second, take a look around you. Maybe you've got a handful of spare change sitting on your desk, or maybe there's an old jar in your kitchen full of forgotten coins. Have you ever really looked at them? I mean, really looked? How many times have you let a penny slip through your fingers without a thought, never realizing it could hold a secret worth millions? Right now, there could be a 1980 penny lying somewhere near you, one that's been through decades of hands, one that's waiting for someone like you to notice it. And what if that someone was you? Think about it. One coin, struck more than 40 years ago, now worth $54 million. Not because it's made of gold, not because it's encrusted with jewels, but because it's one of a kind. It's the definition of hidden treasure, proof that even the smallest, most ordinary things can hold unimaginable power. So what's stopping you from finding the next one? Imagine this. You sit down one evening, open an old drawer, and there it is, a 1980 penny glinting under the light. You pick it up, curious, maybe just to toss it into a jar, but something makes you pause. You look closer. You notice the shine, the texture, the tiny imperfections that somehow look too perfect. You grab a magnifying glass. Your heart starts racing. You start wondering, could this be it? Could this be the one everyone's talking about? That's the thrill collectors live for, that rush of possibility that turns a simple moment into history. Every great discovery starts that way, with a spark of curiosity and the courage to look closer. And right now, that spark might be in your hands. Because stories like the 1980 penny don't just belong to museums or millionaires. They belong to anyone willing to search, to anyone who still believes that magic can hide in the ordinary. So here's the question. How many 1980 pennies have you seen in your life? How many have you ignored, passed off as worthless, without knowing what they could be worth today? What if one of those coins was the legendary one? What if that $54 million penny is sitting right now in a collection box, unrecognized, waiting to be rediscovered? Every person watching this could be sitting just one lucky find away from a story the world will never forget. Think about it. That's how legends are born. Someone ordinary does something extraordinary simply because they paid attention. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're about to become the next name whispered among collectors, the person who found the impossible coin that everyone thought was lost forever. And even if you never find it, think about what that search gives you: connection, excitement, curiosity, the feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. Every coin you hold has a story, and every story reminds you that history isn't locked away in books or museums. It's right here, in your hands, living and breathing through the metal of everyday life. So go ahead, grab your old pennies, your coin jars, your forgotten collections. Check every date, every detail. Turn them over in the light. Because you never know which one might change your life forever. That's the beauty of it. No one can predict where the next miracle will appear. But the people who find it are always the ones who believe it's possible. Now imagine being that person, the one who turns a simple 1980 penny into a $54 million story that inspires millions of others to look closer at the world around them. That's not just luck, that's destiny meeting discovery. That's history being written in the palm of your hand. And maybe, in the end, that's what this whole story has been about. Not just a coin, not just a price tag, but a reminder. A reminder that even the smallest things in life can carry stories bigger than imagination. That sometimes, greatness doesn't come wrapped in gold or framed in luxury. It hides quietly inside the ordinary, waiting for someone with enough curiosity to uncover it. The 1980 penny is more than just a piece of metal. It's a time traveler, a messenger, a survivor of decades that have come and gone. It has watched as new generations were born, as old hands let go, as economies changed, and as technology replaced touch with tap. Yet through all of it, the penny endured, silent, constant, patient. It has outlived the hands that spent it and the pockets that carried it. And still, it continues to tell its story. That's the beauty of it. This coin, this single, simple, copper circle, connects us all. Whether it's the collector in a glass-walled study or the kid checking change at a gas station, It bridges time and generations. It whispers that history is still alive, that the past is never really gone, that the smallest things we overlook might just hold the biggest surprises. So, as this story closes, remember, somewhere in this vast world, one 1980 penny sits quietly, valued not just at $54 million, but at something far greater. It's valued for the wonder it inspires, for the curiosity it sparks, for the hope it creates in anyone who's ever dared to dream that miracles can come from anywhere. Maybe you'll never see that exact coin. Maybe it will remain hidden forever, tucked away in a private vault or locked in the pages of mystery. But that doesn't matter. Because its message is already out here, living inside you, reminding you to look closer, to appreciate more, to never underestimate the power of small things. So, the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, don't walk past it. Pick it up. Feel its weight. Turn it over. Look at the year, 1980, 1990, 2000, it doesn't matter. Because you're not just holding a coin, you're holding time, history, art, and possibility all at once. That's what the 1980 penny teaches us, that even in a world obsessed with what's new and shiny, the real treasures are often the ones we've been carrying all along. And who knows, maybe your next discovery will be the one that changes everything. Maybe your story will be the one people talk about next, the one that begins with an old penny and ends with a moment that rewrites your destiny. Because the truth is, legends never really end. They live on through the ones who believe in them. So keep looking. Keep searching. Keep wondering. Because somewhere, out there, another miracle might be waiting, and maybe, just maybe, it's already in your hands. And that is the magic of the 1981 cent coin.